Well, we're going to look at this vertebrae. We're going to look at the cervical vertebrae. We're going to look at the thoracic. We're going to look at the lumbar and even the sacrum. Okay. And we're going to look at some disarticulated ones, point out some structures. This is a follow-up video to the video I made where I go through each one of these, so this won't take that long. Hold still. All right, so let's look at what we have. All right. So we're looking at the vertebral column, and we're going to look at the bone markings, brought to you by Curious Marine. So first, a quick refresher. All right. Over there, you've got three distinct vertebrae that can be discriminated one from the other by looking at the main parts they have in common, the vertebral body. They all have this thing called a transverse process. All right? They have a spine. There's a opening for the spinal cord to go through, as you can see here. Okay, now, make sure I got this right, Eric. So now, the cervical have a opening in the transverse foramen, and let's kind of go back to the camera and take a quick look. Okay. Now, if we're looking here, now this is a posterior view, anterior, okay? But if you look here, you'll see, let's turn it here. See, this is atlas, the very first one. Axis is the second one, C1 through 7. These blood vessels, you can see them all going down through that. Those blood vessels are going down through this, a foramen. All right, the spinal cord's going through this, another foramen, a larger foramen. One other thing you might notice is there's this articulation between the two different ones. These are the spinal cord. This is the spinal cord, as you can see, spinal cord. These are the spinal nerves. Okay, now let's just kind of run through the cervical, the vertebral vertebrae, and the thoracic and the lumbar. And I think I'm going to reposition this for a second. So let's just pause. Okay, what do we see here? All right, we see, so this has a foramen in the transverse process. This is not a good one. This has a foramen in the transverse process. So let's do our basic parts here. This is anterior, this is posterior. This is now a superior view, still anterior there. So this is your vertebral foramen. This is your transverse foramen. This is the transverse process. This is the body. This would be the spinous process. And then you'll see here you have these articulating surfaces that are going to interact with another one. So another, let's do this. Let's do it right. Okay, you can see how the body's attached, and then this is what we mean by, say, superior articulating surface. It's on the superior side of the bone, and it's going to articulate with the bone on top of it. And there's an inferior one, though, right here, that will attach. So if you see how they connect. Okay, that's some cervical vertebrae. Let's look at how they actually interact with each other towards the bottom. So this is a thoracic vertebrae. I should have T1, but I think this is actually, I think this is actually a smaller one. So let's grab the right one. This should be T1, but it's not. But imagine this being C7, and there they are articulating. Okay. Now, thoracic vertebrae. So one of the things that you can see here is, so here's your thoracic vertebrae, and I can actually see, there's the first T1, and you'll see how these ribs, and it's probably a better angle here, you'll see how these ribs interact with, so they actually will attach at the most anterior part. Probably help if you can see. So see the rib articulating with it. That's why the thoracic one, so the rib is actually attaching here. That's where the rib is going to attach. All right, let's get it. There we go. All right, so the rib will attach. So that's why it has a articulating surface with the rib and also the vertebrae below it or above it, depending on which one we're talking about. So does that look like a giraffe to you? There we go. Well, this one looks like a moose, and this is a lumbar vertebrae. See, kind of like a giraffe. Looks like a moose. Okay, all right, I'm playing around. Okay, so let's look at the lumbar. How do you tell the difference between the lumbar? All right, the lumbar has this thick body, and it's got a superior articular process, but its spinous process is thin. Let's look at the different spinous processes. Okay, so cervical, long, and it's going to be protrude out. Cervical protrudes out, but thoracic kind of bends down. It's at a downward angle, and it's kind of pointy, versus the transverse process for the lumbar. See, it's going to be flat. And again, that's why people sometimes say one looks like a moose and one looks like a giraffe. Okay, all right. So those are our big three that you really got to discriminate with. And let's kind of put together this. Let's do this. Here is your cervical. This is C1. But I'm going to start on the bottom. So C7. C6. This is 4. No, that's 5. I'm sorry. That's 5. 4. 3. Now look, before I add 2, one thing about access versus atlas. This is C2. It's got these things called the dens. All right? The dens part, that's this part right here, because take a look at the difference. Here's atlas. Atlas kind of rests here. This is what allows for your head to be able to swivel. This is an interesting little interaction here. Let's do this, and there we go. Kind of line up all those spinous processes, and there is your cervical vertebrae. So there's your cervical vertebrae. Then I would actually, if I were to build a skeleton, I would, now, by the way, this would be the posterior view. Anterior is that way. So I would now need to add in some thoracic. There's some thoracic. And then, obviously, I'm not going to put all 12 because I don't want to do that long of a video, but then here is your lumbar. So there they are, cervical, thoracic, lumbar. Now what I would need to do is add some ribs to these and add 12 of these, and I would have the proper number, but I'm not going to do that right now. I will show you one more thing about, here's the lumbar here, just so you can see right here. So you'll see there's the spinous, there's that foramen, the vertebral foramen. So this is your spinal cord going all the way up. If we go superior that way, we go inferior down here, you're going to actually see these are the spinal nerves that come off there. So, all right, I think that's pretty much it. And I'll do one last point and kind of close this. As you can see, I almost dropped it. Okay. Okay, so I laid it on its side. Let's do this. So here's a hip bone with L4, L5, and then this is the sacrum, and there's your coccyx bone. Let's get another view there. So, all right, that's pretty much it. Brought to you by Curious Rambling.